around this particular, to this particular moment. What he said was, and this was about basically him synthesizing the idea of being present and being now as eloquently, as succinctly as anybody possibly could. Eckhart Tolle wrote an entire book on this. We've all probably read. Sam kind of synthesized it in a couple of words, a few words. This is what he said. As a matter of conscious experience, the reality of your life is always now. And I think this is a liberating truth about the nature of the human mind. In fact, I think there is probably nothing more important to understand about your mind than that if you want to be happy in this world, that's it. The past is a memory. It's a thought arising in the present. The future is merely something anticipated. It is another thought arising now. What we truly have is this moment, and this, and this, and this. And we spend most of our lives forgetting this truth, refuting it, fleeing it, overlooking it. Just thought that was so poignant. So, welcome to our moment.
Yeah.
And as I got to know this guy and I got to know his heart and his family, I'm like, man, as I told y'all yesterday, I'd love to work with this dude. So to be able to have as chairman of our company someone with that level of credibility and experience and heart, man, when those opportunities come, you go. You partner with that guy. You figure out how to get that deal done. There's not a whole lot of thinking. When the heart and character is right and those credentials are there, you want to talk about adding a cleanup hitter to a team that was already a contender. I can assure you we did that when we announced to the world that Scott Carlin was our chairman. So he's going to offer some closing remarks today, and when he wraps up, I'll come up and offer some of my own, and we'll wrap up our day. So help me welcome to the stage one more time our chairman, Mr. Scott Carlin.
Okay. I love listening to you preach.
I appreciate it.
That was special. Now, first I want to acknowledge Judy and Bobby back there. You guys don't get to see them that much, but when you're back there, you feel the loving embrace. Like no matter what's going to happen, you're going to be okay because they got your back. So thank you too from the back. Before I get into this, I did want to just make a couple of acknowledgments because it kind of keeps just reinforcing itself to me. Looking around here, the details, the attention to every little thing. It's so specific, it's so conscious, doesn't happen, by accident. And it just starts with the logo, the name tags, the lanyard, it's just everything about this is just done so well, Austin. And for the creators in the room, every one of you, and those who aren't here, an amazing thank you and gratitude for what you kind of brought to NABA, because that is clearly the foundation on which we are building the initial engagement and the initial reaction for this platform. We're very lucky to have you, but I can also say, I think you're lucky to have us too. And I'll tell you why. I defy you to find other courses on any other platform that look, sound, or feel better than what Michael Estrella was able to deliver. It is singularly unique. It exists in an N of one, in my opinion, just really, really extraordinary. And on top of that, if you open the app, or you go to the website, and you move around, it's seamless, it works all the time, it loads fast, the UX, the UI is intuitive, it seems like it would take a team of 25, took a team of 1 plus some developers. It is truly, truly extraordinary. I know companies that have raised millions of dollars, hired dozens of people that don't come close to putting out the product, the face, the aesthetic that this company has done. I would say they've almost done it on a shoestring, but that ain't the truth. Because this guy has been writing the checks for 18 months. This company hasn't raised $1 of external funding, not one. He ain't fucking around. That's commitment. That's the only reason I'm here. If I didn't see that in him, nice guy, interesting idea, I would just say, yeah, good luck. There's something special here. He's putting his money where his mouth is. He's putting his energy, power, and intentions where his heart is. I'm all in with people like that. I've spent, the last 10 years of my life, that's who I want to be. That's who I want to be with. And speaking of raising money, we're going to go out and raise $1 million to Austin would like us to throw a party at the Four Seasons in Kona, and I promise you that will happen. I guarantee you that will happen. That will happen. Not with the first million. I guarantee you that will happen. So if any of you know people who are kind of consciously aligned with what we're doing and have the ability to write six-figure checks and want to kind of get on the party train with us, we're going to be hitting the road soon to do that. So I had kind of had a whole different approach to what I was going to say tonight, and I just went in a very different direction around 9 o'clock, 9:30 last night when I got back to my room and threw all that out and just kind of got a download and started writing and pulling some things in from the web, so I can't work quite as extemporaneously as I would normally like to do, because a lot of this stuff is just literally fresh ink on the page. So pardon me if I'm reading some of this stuff, but there are 130 some of us in this room, and I would probably suffice to say there were 130 different ideas, intentions, reasons that brought us all here. And now, after not even really 2 days, I get a sense there's a fusion, there is a congealing of possibility, intention, shared vision that is, really, really palpable. I know this for myself, that everything in my life, from my career as an executive to being kind of a conscious wanderer to being a curiosity junkie, feels like it's aligning super perfectly, super in the moment, that this is exactly where I need to be right here, right now. I'm infused with an amazing sensation and mindset that is basically saying, why not us? Why not this? There's something special happening at NABA. And I have one TV story to tell you because it was foundational and kind of just clarifying something to me about, at the time, television business, but it kind of applied to business in general, and it's applied in my life many times over. And it's kind of not giving your power away to what other people think. The first TV show I ever launched in the business, I joined a company called Telepictures. It was a startup syndication company, and syndication business is a business where you come up with an idea for a television show and you literally take it market by market around the country. New York, LA, Chicago, Philly, Houston, 200 different cities, and you try and get somebody in that town to buy your show. You end up with 150 markets, and you're on television. And the first show I was ever involved with was a show called The People's Court. Judge Wapner, Russell DeBailiff, Doug Llewellyn. I hear some familiarity out there. That's fantastic. It was the first show we'd ever developed. We're taking it out for the first time, and our offices were in New York. And we're going to pitch the guys who run the different big groups who have to have their offices in New York. And the first place we're taking the show, we shot a whole half-hour pilot, is the guy who oversees the NBC owned and operated stations. He's the guys that own stations in New York, in LA, Chicago, a bunch of different places. With my boss, who's about 10 years older than me, who had left a very big job at CBS to come into this company and start it, and was head of sales, and with the producer, a guy named Stu Billett, the guy who created People's Court. And we show up to this meeting at NBC, and my boss, Dick, had used to worked at NBC, knew the guy we were pitching, didn't know him well, but they knew each other. And we do our highs and the lows, we sit down, and we put in our 3/4 inch tape into the machine, put the show on, and we're about maybe 5 minutes into the first case. There were 3 cases per show. We're 5 minutes into the first case. And this guy, Wes Harris, his tape deck's behind him, he kind of turns around, stops the machine. What's going on here? And he looks at Dick, and he says, Dick, what were you guys thinking? He goes, do you think anybody is going to care about watching somebody disputing a $20 dry cleaning bill? And I'm looking at Dick and Stu, and literally the blood is just literally pouring out of their face. It is instant traumatic stress syndrome. And he just goes on to say, I don't know what you guys are thinking. This will never be on television. This is just not who would watch this? And Dick said whatever he said, and we packed up our bags and got the tape and walked out of there, and I'm thinking to myself, what have I done? Who are these? What kind of mistake did I make? We kind of dust ourselves up. We show up 30 minutes early to our next meeting. We're now seeing the president of the ABC owned and operated television stations. And we get in his office. Dick realizes he forgot to rewind the tape, so he's putting the tape in, he's hitting the rewind button, kind of waiting for it to rewind. We start playing the tape again, and I swear to God, we're sitting there watching it, just praying at this point. We're watching it, and we get almost to the exact same spot. It stops the tape. I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is instant death. We're dead before we even got started. The guy looks at Dick and looks at me and looks at Stu. He goes, this is one of the most original ideas I've seen in a long time. What's the availability in the ABC markets? And Dick, without missing a beat, says, well, as you can imagine, our relation at NBC, we have a lot of interest, but if you're interested, we could make a deal. right now. I learned a lot from that response. We ultimately made a deal with these guys. Show went on the air, stayed on the air, 30 plus years, has done over $1 billion in business. And I tell you that just because that one moment I was thinking this one guy's opinion was going to influence my life, the life of our company, the life of the producer, and in a nanosecond, another guy said something completely different and just shifted it. And I just realized, don't give anybody that power. If you believe, just believe. And it goes back to what Joseph Campbell said in the Hero's Journey. Cross that threshold. All you have to do is cross that threshold. And I came to learn very early in business. And like you, Austin, business is a sport to me. As long as death or potential bodily dismemberment is not a potential risk in anything I'm doing, what the fuck? Who cares? Yes. Go for it. Yes. Go for it. And that's kind of just how I've approached business and life. As long as death and dismemberment's not a potential consequence, I'm all in. So, the most transformational thing that happened in my life, literally while I was still in the middle of working at HBO, was I enrolled in a master's program in spiritual psychology at the University of Santa Monica, which was a very kind of noted program. And my wife had done it a number of years ago. She did it the year we got married. And I was probably attracted to her originally because she was more conscious, more emotionally mature, more emotionally available, more emotionally articulate than me. And a few years into the marriage, I realized, dude, you gotta up level your game somehow, because you're not playing on equal ground here. So I literally enrolled in the program. It was a multi-weekend program over two years. Told nobody at HBO about it. I was literally a closeted spiritual psychology student. So I didn't think anybody would understand, care, and who knows what would happen. But it was a game changer for me and awakened me in so many ways. And the awakening was not about really becoming somebody new, but it was really about remembering kind of who I was and letting go and surrendering releasing limiting beliefs, and just, chipping away at this stone that was on the outside of me to reveal really what was there, all along. And in the middle of the program, just waves of manifestations began rolling over me. And there were moments where, manifestations would happen within hours of setting that intention and kind of tapping into that field. And I was clearly calling in a lot of these things, and as they came in, the arc of my career began to bend very quickly and very directly towards people and content that I can only describe as transformational. And soon after, and still, in the program, I hooked up with a group of guys who were kind of thinking there was something happening in this transformational space, and as guys in Hollywood, maybe we could do something about it. And we formed an organization called GATE. It was called the Global Alliance for Transformational Entertainment. Pretty heavyweight name, but it was, our co-founders were Eckhart Tolle and Jim Carrey, and a slew of other above the line, below the line people, lawyers, agents, business affairs people who've been in the business, people who've been making the sausage for years, but thought to themselves, is this the only way we can do it? Is this the only kind of stuff we can make? And there was this intention field that maybe collectively this group who's inside the business could somehow effectuate change and maybe bring some more conscious thought, conscious media, transformational content to the to the playing field. Didn't work, unfortunately. With good intentions. There are a lot of reasons it didn't work. It's not even worth getting into it. But that intention field just started bringing a lot of other things into my life. And about the same time, I met a guy named Tom Shadak. Tom was at the time kind of the hottest comedy director in show business. Did Ace Ventura, Bruce Almighty, just movie after movie. The Nutty Professor, and he had a very traumatic brain injury on a mountain bike, fell off his mountain bike up in Malibu, serious concussion, and just forced him to kind of, in healing through the concussion, relook at, reassess, kind of contextualize his entire life, and decided to produce a documentary about this transition he was going through called I Am. If you haven't seen this film, I highly recommend it. And it was his kind of own awakening, letting go of a lot of physical stuff, the 18,000 square foot house, the 6 cars, moved into a double wide trailer up in Paradise Cove in Malibu, and just started moving into a space of gratitude and generosity and giving away, completely shifted his whole life. And that was kind of the essence of the movie. At the same time, he was funding a film called The Happy Movie, which was being directed by a friend of mine, a guy named Rocco Bellic, which was about happiness and why we, as the richest, most prosperous country in the world, when ranked against on happiness scale, were like number 20. Another very interesting movie. But all of those things started kind of happening around the same time, and I'm thinking, oh, there's something happening with this transformational content, this transformational media. Soon after all that, the manifestations kept coming, and then Oprah Winfrey announced she was going to walk away from her syndicated show, a show I competed against for 15 years of my syndication life. She was going to walk away from the Oprah Winfrey Show and start the Oprah Winfrey Network, a transformational, conscious cable network. I'm thinking, holy shit, someone's going to do it. And if anybody in the world can pull it off, it's got to be Oprah Winfrey, right? The day she announced she was doing this, my former partner and boss at Warner Brothers called me and said, can you believe it? I'm over at HBO now, he had just retired. He said, can you believe it? We're finally, we're out of the syndication business, and she's finally getting out. What an opportunity. I said, yeah, what an opportunity for someone. And he said, why don't we call Rosie? And we had put Rosie O'Donnell, originally her original show, the Rosie O'Donnell Show, on the air when we were at Warner Brothers. It became a massive hit. He said, why don't we call Rosie? Oprah Winfrey's walking away from all these time periods. There are going to be 5 rating points, the biggest time periods in the world that are up for grabs. Let's see if Rosie wants to come back and do a show. I said, why would she want to do it again? She walked away with $300 million from our shows. She's got all these kids now, she's married, she's got a perfect woman. He goes, does it hurt to ask? I said, no, it doesn't hurt to ask. And just another lesson learned. So we called Rosie, and she said, well, why would I want to do this? I said, well, let me tell you why you want to do it, Rosie. Because when you did your show, and you were a massive, massive success, you weren't Rosie O'Donnell. You were still in the closet. You were not out. You were not married. You were pretending to be somebody you really weren't. Now, you're out. You're divorced. You're remarried. You have 4 kids. I said in a crazy kind of way, you're more relatable today than you were back then. I said, and more importantly than that, I said, you can do the show you always wanted to do. You can do the conscious kind of talk show that you couldn't do when we did the Rosie O'Donnell show that you can now do with Rosie. And lo and behold, she said, fantastic. I didn't say it in the moment, but she ultimately got there and said, I'll do it. You'll be my partner. We'll make a lot of money, and it'll be fantastic. I said, all right, terrific. At the end of the day, we ended up making a deal with Oprah, because we basically went to Oprah. We had a deal in syndication. It got very complicated and ran into some problems, so we had to make an 11th hour decision, and we brought it to Oprah. And we said, listen, you're launching this cable network. Rosie was the 2nd highest rated talk show in the history of talk shows, only behind you. If you want to really turn on the lights on the Oprah Winfrey Network, this is the show to do it with. Lo and behold, Oprah got on a plane, flew to New Jersey, met with Rosie. They had a meeting in mind. She said yes. Wrote us a check for $85 million, and they bought the Rosie O'Donnell show, the Rosie show, for 2 years to launch on. I tell you all that because I'm thinking to myself, this is it. The candle is lit. We are now going to have a cable network fronted by the most powerful, most important, most influential woman in the history of television, Oprah Winfrey, bringing transformational content to the world at scale on cable television. Well, as you all probably know, it didn't quite work out that way. That was the intention, but she was building it on cable, linear cable television, at just about the time cable had peaked. The wheels were starting to come off, people were disconnecting from cable, the audience was getting older, and it was an advertiser-supported platform. The only way Oprah Winfrey Network was going to stay on the air, it wasn't going to stay on television because Oprah wanted it there. It had to generate the money to support the expenses that were underlying the business of building the network. Even Oprah Winfrey couldn't pull it off. The idea, the vision she had for her network today exists in something called Super Soul Sunday. That's all that's left of what was going to be 24/7, 365 days a year of the Young Network, which just, it just proved to me personally, because I was really rooting for her, and I thought this was the opportunity that linear cable, linear broadcast, old media, legacy, it ain't happening there. There's got to be another way. Direct to consumer. Go right to the consumer, and the technology is now there to do that, which brings us to NABA. That's why I think NABA is in a place to do what Oprah Winfrey couldn't. As I see it, you hear that, Austin? As I see it, NABA is basically a haven for health, spiritual, and wellness empowerment. Fundamentally though, I think empowerment is our most critical value proposition, and I'll tell you why. This is kind of what came through to me, last night, and it's pretty much boils down to this. At an unprecedented scale, we as human beings, and particularly we as Americans, are being disempowered at ridiculous, alarming rates. Robin, this is going to sound familiar to some of the things you were talking about earlier, but research from the American College of Cardiology suggests that 93% of American adults have suboptimal metabolic health. This means that at a scale we are dealing with an underpowering of the body crisis. This is leading to almost every disease and chronic symptom we're seeing in the Western world today. We are a species under siege by massive metabolic dysfunction. And here are some staggering statistics. 60% of adults are pre-diabetic. 25% of women are on SSRIs. 22% of teens are on Adderall or a similar drug. 30% of teens are pre-diabetic. 20% of teens, think about this for a second, 20% of teens have fatty liver disease. Are our teenagers 65-year-old? 50% of teens and 80% of adults are overweight. 40% of high school seniors qualify as having a mental health disorder. Our healthcare industry is the largest and fastest growing industry in the United States. Why? Our food is poisoned by the way we grow it. We dump over 4 billion tons of antibiotics into our soil, glyphosate and the like, which kills the fungi and bacteria. And ultimately, when it works its way through the human body, it's like Agent Orange hitting our microbiome, and then all hell breaks loose. And the mass quantities of processed foods that we eat are worse than not being food. They're actually poison. We are overfed and undernourished. The objective of the food companies is to sell us addictive food. And believe it or not, 10% of all food stamps, $10 billion a year in subsidies, are allocated for the purchase of diabetes soda. To buy Coke, to buy Mountain Dew. We're the only country in the world that permits this. We're becoming a sick, depressed, infertile, non-competitive population while going bankrupt as a nation while we deal with all the consequences of all these realities. And when I wrote that, it reminded me of that scene in Good Will Hunting. I'm presuming most of you have seen it. I thought it was the most dramatic scene in there when Robin Williams' character is confronting, Matt Damon in the psychiatrist's office, and he's kind of going through the litany of abuse and issues that Matt had to deal with, and he looks at Matt and says, "Well, it's not your fault." Matt says, "No, I'm not going to excuse. No, it's not your fault. It's not anybody's fault that this is happening to them in our country. The odds are stacked staggeringly against the majority of people right now. Maybe not the people in this room, but the vast majority of people. Metabolic dysfunction leads to the underpowering of our cells, which leads to different symptoms and different cell types. And the reason this is happening right now in human history is that pretty much every aspect of our default Western American culture, from what we're eating to how little we're sleeping and exercising, hurts the part of the cell that transforms food energy to cellular energy and powers our metabolism, which is our mitochondria. And because our healthcare system is not focused on mitochondrial health, we're seeing unsustainable trends where the more we spend on healthcare, the sicker we're getting. We're focusing on managing symptoms, which are a result of the problem, not the problem itself. NABA is a way for us to reimagine how we want to live. That's what I think one of our big missions is. And I consider this an act of rebellion. Right? This is an insurgent strategy. We are building the NABA Rebel Alliance. So what are we really building at NABA? Well, right now it's part learning platform, part community, part marketplace for wellness support. And who are some of our relevant competitors in the space? Certainly Mind Valley, De Leon, Commune, Gaia, Greater Minds, the Shift Network. The good news is it's a relatively small competitive set, but importantly, virtually all of our competitors lack what is likely to become our core strength and differentiator, the part that can become the stickiest part of our business, community. And I think we all felt it in this room last night. I know we're feeling it today. Imagine if that sensation hung in the air, that feeling we had after Joe's meditation last night, the feeling we get moments today, was somehow embedded and resonant when users engage with the NABA platform. Warm, safe, connected, communal. How does NABA do that? There's one way. Become a vertical social network. And we're already pretty much doing that. vertical social networks are social media platforms dedicated to communities with hyper-specific interests. In other words, they're niche social networks centered around specific interests, topics, or industries. They're curated online content experiences, digital clubhouses that allow people to create deeper connections over shared interests. And here are just a few examples some of you may be familiar with of vertical social networks. Goodreads, phenomenal platform if you're into books. Yardshare, you want to share your power tools, your lawnmower. Nextdoor, hyper-focused, very, very niche neighborhood platform. Letterboxd, if you love movies, you want to read tons of movie reviews. Letterboxd, LinkedIn, obviously for business. And Strava. How many of you are familiar with Strava? Is anybody on Strava? Okay, so not too many of you. Well, Strava is a social network platform for athletes who run, bike, and hike. Strava lets users track their activities with performance stats that are always updated. You can also connect with friends and share your activities and experiences with them. Members can comment on each other's activities and support each other's accomplishments. Strava connects with almost 100 million athletes across 100 countries. They like to say we're the largest sports community in the world, and we believe if you sweat, you're an athlete. So this is not for pros. This is for the every man and woman. It's an incredibly positive, uplifting, and relatively toxic-free platform. Perhaps the best of any out there. So here's what I'm dwelling on Strava. I believe that what Strava is to athletes, NABA can be for those seeking personal growth and real connection. The NABA community experience is safe, supportive, informative, joyful. Where else does that exist? It's why I believe NABA can have 100 million users. When is the last time you engaged on a social network and came away feeling better than when you arrived? Has it ever happened? We all know by now that free platforms like Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, X, we are the product. We've made a Faustian bargain for something that's free by allowing our personal data and every digital move we make to be gathered, stored, and harvested for advertisers just so they can sell us more shit. We are the ones that have to navigate the toxic minefields of the social landscape wherever we turn because the algorithms have taken over, hacked our ever-malleable neurologic response mechanisms, and made us Pavlovian captives to content that engages us on some primal level, but in absolutely no way serves our higher good or critical needs. The US Surgeon General today can argue that social media platforms are the cigarettes of the 21st century. They may not give you cancer, but they dim your life force in ways that mimic a system under chronic metabolic stress. People want connection, real connection, not the faux engagement that masquerades as connection in the social media world. I think the fact that 130 of us have traveled to Austin, Texas in almost July for a company in its infancy is a testament to this impulse for connection. And it's like Chris Shea has said of dynamic living. I believe that natural, radiant, robust health is our birthright, and I agree with that. I also know that NABA disrupts the social digital paradigm that serves us the exact opposite of that. So what does all this mean? Well, I think there's an opportunity to build a media platform that connects the head and the heart and scale it to millions of people. Feed your brain, heal your body, nurture your soul. NABA is a trifecta of possibilities, and the primary driver of our growth, our initial growth, and certainly that beyond, is everyone sitting in this room harnessing the power of word of mouth. Our challenge is to build a platform that delivers consistently, to be intimately tuned into our users, and to adapt and pivot as the community dictates, and to do it from a place of love. If NABA users engage their app multiple times a day and come away feeling better, more inspired, and hopeful than we came, we win. We win big, because that is a self-reinforcing feedback loop of empowerment. Can we get people addicted to feeling good? Sounds like an incredibly low threshold, but go try that on Facebook, X, or Snapchat. I think we can. No, I know we can. The intention is here, the people are here, the moment is here. Finally, what is our core mythology? Our core superpower? Maybe it's something like this. NABA, feel good, grow more, be better. If we can scale that with love, we change ourselves, we change the world, and I say let the revolution begin.
You know, the first 100,000 is going to be a lot of fun, but as you can tell from the remarks of our chairman, there's another comma with 3 more zeros that we plan on adding to.
Trace commas.
But foundationally, this is the core that builds it. And I really want you to consider and immerse yourself in the energy of what we discussed earlier when we dove into the rewards and the community building efforts of what are your activation points. And know that you will be seen and acknowledged because of who you choose to be, not who someone else wants you to be here. And I'm really excited to be on this journey ahead. I'll add a couple more things and then I'm going to play a song I'd like us to sing together. Is that okay? It's a song my mom and I sang on the way to school every morning. Yeah, but I think you're going to really like it. I think it's very fitting for the moment. Most of what I would have said in closing I felt like we addressed earlier before I brought Scott on stage, so I won't belabor the point, other than to express my sincere and deepest gratitude for your presence, the time and resources you invested to be here, and acknowledge the faith, belief, and courage you have to show up for yourself, to show up for your belief in me, the team that we've put together, our company, our community, and I'm so excited about an era ending because it means a new one is beginning, and we get to create that together. And you all are going to watch this company grow up really fast before your eyes over the next 6 months, moving into 2025. There's a lot of people talking about campaigns in the world. The campaign I want us to talk about is the one about what the natural art of being alive is together. Because ultimately, if we can influence hearts and minds, that will address all of the problems that we're experiencing that aren't so fun to watch on television all of the time. And I believe that we can make a difference in this community. There's a lot of people that are creating and done things in the world with far less influence than we've had that have influenced the discourse happening in culture. So do not discount the impact that we can make. And this group of people will turn into 10,000 overnight, and I'm honored to be on that path with you guys. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And you're like 50 and you're like, I finally got this place figured out. And then it all falls to the floor. And my friend Lauren Bram is a wonderful hormone doctor, and she says, you know, that period where your hormones tank, even your tribe deserts you. You desert yourself, and even other people desert you. They don't even know who you are anymore because everything they know about you was made during a high hormone time. Even your kids are like, who is this now? I mean, it's really a fundamental thing. And you finally have the wisdom to do something, but you don't have the energy to do it. And that's where bioidenticals come in and give you the ability to have the strength of your youth with the wisdom of age.
Let's just come on, just get on out and take care of it. That's beautiful.
Nice job, Brian. So good to be here with you all. Thank you, Austin, for the invitation. Such an honor. We all have a story, and as we've been in this room the last day and a half, it is evident that we are in a time of awakening. Everyone in this room knows that we need to learn how these bodies work, how to interpret what she or he or non-binary is trying to say. I feel that the physical is going to get louder in the form of a symptom when we're not taking the time to tap in. Most of my patients do not belong in this home. And one of the things that I know about, I'll just speak on my lens and my perspective and my identities, is that we are just energy. And that's one of my assumptions that I live my life from. I kind of feel like I'm embodying a southern accent right now, and I'm not sure why.
I think you sound so good. I didn't hear it.
Go ahead, LeTa, go ahead.
Okay.
Hey, LeTa, go right ahead. You're doing so good.
You're gonna see me in a nice summer dress next time.
We're gonna have sweet tea served right after she finishes up outside.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah.
The first thing I need to always address is, what are the assumptions? What are the identities that I'm playing? Or, my patient in front of me, what are we working with here? And then when I know that narrative, then we must first remove what is unwanted. I've been blessed to have discovered Quicksilver 15 plus years ago. And what I know about these bodies, that heavy metals and plastics and mold are heavy, they're dense. How can we be in touch with who we are when we have all of these really frenetic energies that are unwanted? How do we know who we are when we're full of mold and mycotoxins? So the first thing I always want to do, and this brings me back to Chinese medicine, everything is going to be through that lens, which is feng shui. We are in relationship in the season we're in with all the things that we think are matter and physical and 3D, but everything's just vibrating. So I always want to invite someone, let's remove. I know for me, if I have a cluttered desk, I have a cluttered mind. So my live sessions are to teach, the field, just timeless principles about natural law with Taoism. Taoism, it's my religion. It's a lifestyle, it's an approach. There's a lot of ways to look at it. But Chinese medicine is one aspect. We look at the I Ching, Polestar geomancy, feng shui. The Qigong practices. There's, food is medicine, plant medicine. There's so many aspects to life as an art. And so in this country, you have to actually go to school, and it's an oral tradition, very old school, to learn these timeless principles that I think everybody should know. So my role here at NABA is to teach to the people what I was taught. Because I think if everybody knew even the fundamental basics, because sometimes things are very simple. Yin and yang, right? If I want energy, do I rest, take a nap, do I go for a walk? Rest is yin, go for a walk is yang. We complicate things. And I was backstage with someone before said, we see life as we are. And when we have parasites that are asking for sugar, and when we have things in our bodies that we don't realize that are in there, how do we even know who we are? Of course we're going to see things as toxic. Of course we are going to attract the similar vibration that we're vibrating. So I love being live. I love taking questions, because when you're in a room and in a field, when you have a question, everybody has a question. And I believe in the power that community is medicine. I believe that when you can understand some fundamentals about how things work from the Taoist lens, when you can have and embrace a broader perspective of you and a broader perspective of what this world is and what this life is, and what maybe your body is saying to you, it is so empowering and freeing. And you realize in that moment that you don't need to rely on anybody else for opinions. You may consult them with a copay. I want to get that lens. Yeah, let's run some imaging. But let me equally value things I can't measure. So I will say that each live will be different. I was going to speak to available chi. That is important. I love to teach. I teach very complex things and make it very simple. And I would invite you, if you are remotely interested in learning about Taoism or Chinese medicine, how it can be very practical in your life, I would love for you to join me.
One second before we do, I just want to, Dr. LeTa has one more thing to share with you guys, but before she does, I just want to say beyond the substance that would define these ladies' passions and their work, and that really fuels them in so many ways to show up in the capacity that they will in these live sessions. The thing that inspires me most, I've known each of them a little less than a decade, which is in and of itself very hard to believe, but they're here because of their character and who they are as people, and how kind and loving they are, and that they're my friends and people that I trust to hand the keys to this community to teach you. I consider them people of the highest quality and standard that I would want to be around in my life. And so just know that when you're connecting with them inside of a live session, the content and education and guidance you're receiving is an added bonus to the human that you're in the presence of. And so first and foremost, that's why they're here, and I'm deeply grateful for how they've chosen to show up in NABA. It influences my belief in what we're doing so much. So thank you guys very much.
So, Dr. Aaron mentioned that something about creation energy, and in Taoist sexology, you know, as you know, I think Brian and you were bantering about it. Oh no, actually it was Charlotte. It takes a man and a woman, as we know right now, to make a baby. But what I know is that sexual energy is pure creation energy. And so when you get lit up and turned on, and when you fall in love, you don't care if you sleep or what you eat. And when you find that passion, that creative life force pumping through you, that sexual energy being lit up, you can direct that to make a baby, to further business, like you see Austin has done. First 100 days of Chinese medical school, no sex. To build up, who am I? What can I do with this crystallized golden energy? And where do I want to direct it? So I'm going to invite each of you to stand up. Mark, cue it. And I want you to feel what she's saying to you. Go for it.
Put your mind to it. Put your mind to it. And you can do it. Get up. Get up. Get motivated. Get inspired. Get your motherfucking shit.
That kind of panel.
How have I lived this much of my life not having my own back, in my own head? It is game-changing when you have your own back in your own head. You do not need to look for anything outside of you for validation. That's the goal. That is the peace. That is the unconditional love. And when you are vibrating and operating from that place, there's not anything that can stop you.
Beautiful women, both in business.
We're going to be dancing, we're going to be moving, we're going to be doing somatorespiratory integration, breathing, connecting with our pain, connecting with our body, connecting with our sensuality through dance, through movement, through witnessing. So we're going to be witnessing each other, re-messaging, recoding, right? Our womb space is the place that holds these feminine codes, the divine feminine codes of love, of compassion, of generosity, of reciprocity, of receptivity, of trust, of power, of pleasure. Your womb. How connected are you with your womb and these codes, right? So this course is going to be a big ass initiation into like these divine feminine places within us that are our birthright.
It'll be fantastic. I mean, I'm sure it will be. I have to just check in from time to time. Not really get out of here.
Bless your heart, Austin.
If couples would open up their fists and look and see what's inside the fist, what they would find is they would find their values. And if couples would start to talk about that instead of the chores and the sex and the snow shoveling of who's doing what, that is when that's when it doesn't become hard to manage conflicts. That's when
showcase their work and tell their story and kind of dissipate that barrier to entry of understanding who they are and what their art means to them and why they create it is really the main goal for us, I
So good. We're lucky to have you. All right, you guys, so my course is going to be around the full moon. And I'm so excited. I'm a self-love and compassion coach, which is a big umbrella in how I serve my clients. Everything from EFT to compassion, working in the quantum, yoga, breath, sound. I'm a holistic approach to how we can claim our energy back from where it's been hijacked, whether that's trauma, whether that's limiting beliefs, whether it's stuck, and use these modalities to come back together, bring our energy home, and then reuse that energy to create our lives that we want. And so I like to work with the moon. And has anybody done a moon ceremony before? Yeah, woo! I love it. Facebook just reminded me that I've been doing moon ceremonies for 10 years. Started with my girlfriend, some candles, and my black cat in my one-bedroom apartment in Hollywood.
Sounds about right.
So basically working with the moon is, there's so much energy around available to us at any given time. And a cliff notes about full moon is, it is representative of something that's complete, a cycle that is complete in your life. Whether that's a great cycle, like you brought the baby to fruition, now it's time to move into the next cycle. Or are you running a pattern that you don't want to bring into your next cycle? So in the moon, there are different themes happening every month, and astrology, you can call it woo-woo or whatnot, but it's actually a science. There's math behind it. There's so much that goes into understanding the energy that all of the different planets and whatnot are offering to us. And when we learn to lean into the extra energy that's available and harness it to make those awesome choices, then we can really create some, it's like putting kerosene on a fire. It just gives you that extra oomph to have that transformation. So number one, on each live session, depending on what's happening, we'll have a different ritual. And so maybe it's going to be a water ceremony, and maybe it's going to be a burning ceremony or a candle ceremony. And you guys will all know that ahead of time, and it'll be up on the website so you know what to bring and all the things. We're going to go in with meditation. We're going to go in with breath. We're going to go in with Kriya. And the thing about full moon and transformation is you need to let something go. You need to make space for new stuff to come in. And my favorite tool on how to do that is the emotional freedom.
Let yourself be.